We were playing in Germany, in East Germany, and this was just after the wall came down, and the audience was very warm and lovely, but I didn't know any German. They didn't understand what I was saying. And for some reason, I made up this story that what this ballad was going to be about was this man, Lynchehaun, who escaped to America, and he worked in high buildings, on skyscrapers, and, repairing and all this stuff. So one day he fell off the skyscraper, and as he was descending towards the ground, he was, he was muttering words, and he hit the ground. Of course, he was killed, and the people came out and down from the offices, and one of them said, it was really weird. As he passed my window, he was reciting lines like of a poem or something. And I heard them too. And they realized that he'd been making up the ballad of his life while he was falling towards the ground. And this was the ballad of Lynchehaun. So there you go.
Welcome to the Back Catalog Listening Party, your weekly musical happy hour where musicians pick an album from their back catalog and tell the stories behind their favorite tracks in front of a live online audience.
On this week's special St. Patrick's Day episode, we talk with legendary Irish guitarist Dáithí Sproule, who joins us from West St. Paul with some whiskey and coffee to revisit his 2011 album Lost River, Volume 1, featuring many of his friends and past collaborators, including Peter Ostroushko, Tom Schaefer, Liz Carroll, Laura MacKenzie, Dean Magraw, and Altan. This episode is chock full of great stories, so pour a pint, grab a snack, and kick back as we listen to music together here on the Back Catalog Listening Party, where it's always Friday and old albums never sounded better. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
And welcome to the Back Catalog Listening Party. My name is Mother Banjo, one of your hosts.
My name is Anthony Ihrig, the other host.
And joining us today, I actually didn't ask you ahead of time where you're joining us from. Dáithí Sproule, where are you joining us from today?
From West St. Paul. West St. Paul.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, we're happy to have you here joining us from all the way across the river. And folks are excited for this special party. Christopher joining us, enjoying the spring weather in Minnesota this fine day. Looking forward to the show. And Joe joining us from Prospect Park in Minneapolis. A lot of locals here today. If you are joining us for the live taping on YouTube, tell us where you're tuned in from. If you're enjoying a beverage or a snack, or today we're doing a special lunchtime taping. So maybe you have a sandwich or a salad or something. Tony, what are you enjoying today?
I'm going back to the Brooklyn Brewery for their Special Effects IPA. It's an NA IPA, but it tastes delicious. And perfect for a lunch hour here.
Excellent. And Dáithí, what are you enjoying?
Actually, I love IPAs. I love Surly. Are we allowed to advertise? Of course, we're allowed to advertise.
Yeah.
I love Surly Furious. But today I have coffee and my Emma Bridgewater mug, and we discovered this distillery in Ireland the last time, or during the year, anyhow, last year, called West Cork Distillery. And their whiskey is, I know how we discovered it. We were staying with my sister in Dublin, in Swords, and I was coming over, and she has this thing in her mind from when I used to spend a lot of time with her that I liked whiskey, which I used to drink quite a lot of. So they realized they'd no whiskey in the house, so herself and her daughter went out, and they chose this whiskey by the label. Oh, that's a nice label. We'll get that. And it turned out to be absolutely gorgeous. So I'm having a coffee and a West Cork whiskey.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
Well, I'm also trying to channel some Irish and local vibes at the same time. I have Summit's really amazing NA Irish dark beer, which is quite tasty if you've never had it. So I'm going to crack that open and pour it in my Back Catalog Listening Party pint glass.
All right. Well, we got some other folks coming around here. We got Dean in St. Paul having some salad. Good to see you, Dean. And our friend Connie in Richfield joining in. Thank you all so much for being here, being part of the party. If you're new to the program, this is what we do. We meet every week and we hang out with our favorite artists and listen to music with no other agenda, but appreciate back catalog material and hear all about the songs, where they come from, the songwriting, the histories, and the recording process. So it's a conversation. If you're out there watching live, please jump into the comments throughout the hour. Let us know if you have any questions or comments for Dáithí, and we'll try to get to it by the end of the hour.
And Vaughn joining us as well. So some musicians joining us. Great to have you.
Lovely.
And for folks, I know there's a lot of folks joining us who are already fans of yours, Dáithí, but for folks who maybe aren't as familiar with your music, maybe you can give a brief origin story. I know you have a huge biography, but maybe at least where you grew up, how you fell into making the music you make.
Well, I'm from Derry City in the north of Ireland, and it's at the when I was young, it was about 55,000 people in it, and it's just on the border. This problem we have in Ireland with the border, and the border was drawn in such a way as to keep Derry within the United Kingdom, even though Derry really was the capital of Donegal, which is to the west of us, and stayed it was in the Republic, and it was a strange, awkward division. But anyhow, so I suppose everybody liked singing in Derry. Everybody was sort of musical, but nobody was actively involved in music in our family. And there's an annual competition in Derry that you'll see the word here to a fish or a fish. And this was a big deal, and all the primary school children would be put in for it in choirs or solos. So I did a bit of that, but I think like a lot of people, it was when you got into your teens, and I didn't do music classes or anything, but when you got into your teens was when you began to get interested and notice what was on the radio and so on. And then, of course, the Beatles. It was just unbelievable. And I know musical people of any age will know what I'm talking about without any explanation. But being the age I was, I was born in 1950. So I remember the first time I saw a photo of them, I wondered, who are these guys? And then I remember hearing Love Me Do, which was their first single in Britain and Ireland, and thinking, wow, that's sort of interesting. And then, of course, the whole thing unfolding and hearing amazing music, it wasn't. I like to point out to people too that loving the music of the Beatles had nothing to do with being cool or sexy or any of that. It was music. You were hearing sounds and harmonies, and also I was hearing chords. I mean, I didn't know what a chord was. It was only in retrospect I was realized, boy, these are really interesting chords here. And so that set my love for the music light. So another element, so I didn't start the guitar till I was 17, but I already was banging out chords on the piano, and I was very lucky in that I had a great Irish language teacher in secondary school, which you start when you're 11, and the school itself was like a prison camp. It was so brutal. The corporal punishment, it was terrifying. It's terrible. But several of my teachers were absolutely brilliant. My Irish language teacher was fantastic. And so when I was 14, he gave me a little scholarship where you go to an Irish language college. So it would be a bit like summer school, only we went to the west of Donegal. You're there for 3.5 weeks, boys and girls, and you're staying in the houses or the cottages of the local people, like sort of 15 or 20 boys all bunched into a 3 or 4 room cottage with the locals who were, without any derogatory element, very poor peasant people who had like one little field. But the area, it's called Ranafast, was incredibly rich in song and Irish language, folklore, etc., etc. So I simultaneously made some of my best friends, that some of whom I later played with, and failed to chat up girls, which was very important, and so on. But I learned these wonderful songs. So there were several elements then in preparing me to be. There was no sign that I would ever be a musician. By the way, I was like a nerdy little child who's always reading and doing his homework. But the elements then would have been hearing the Beatles and their chords, and then these beautiful songs in the Irish language. and I began to hear, the ballads, the folk ballad boom of that era too. All those things kind of went together. So when I was in that same place in Ranafast, a friend of mine taught me my first chords, and it was one of these kind of unusual things that where people might say something was meant to be. I didn't physically see a guitar. I never saw a guitar in the flesh, as it were. But I began to think, I'm beginning to think if I could get my hands on a guitar, I could play it. So when I was in Ranafast when I was 17, one of my best, oldest friends, who still, he is now my oldest friend, he had a guitar and he showed me a few chords. And I already knew from working on the piano basically what chords were. And I instantly, you could say I played the guitar every day since. At the end of that week, we played at a concert, me and my friends. And I must have, and I was strumming 3 chords or whatever I was doing, So it just was one of those things that was meant to be. So that got me going. I could go on, but I probably the main thing in my life, I seem to have a knack for guitar. It's just one of those things. It isn't that I was doing something complicated or anything, but somehow, I play the fiddle all the time, and like nobody's going to ask me to play a fiddle on a record. You know what I mean? Somehow, even though I love it and I'm obsessed by it, it doesn't quite sound right. Whereas the guitar, even when I knew nothing, somehow it sounded kind of all right. So, but anyhow, the main thing there, I fell in with so many wonderful musicians, all the way along the luck. So the first people would have been, actually the very first, I hope I'm not going on too long, but the very first person I heard about, so I started when I was 17 in Ranafast, and I would get the loan of a guitar from my friend, and then my mother bought me a £9 guitar or something. But somebody in the class said, my class at school said, Healy's a great guitarist. And this is a guy I knew by sight my whole life almost. He wasn't a close friend. And I said, really? And so I went up to Healy's house, John Healy, and I went in, and he had invented his own way of playing, finger picking guitar, just out of his head. And he had this wonderful repertoire of traditional songs in Irish and English, which he had learned from his brother-in-law. And he had arranged them with this totally unique, self-developed way of playing. And he also liked Bob Dylan. He played some Bob Dylan, like Girl from the North Country and Boots of Spanish Leather, which I still adore. A few really beautiful early Dylan things. And so that was my first huge stroke of luck. My only ambition was to try and be half as good as my friend Healy. And he had a great career, but not as a musician, And then in Ranafast, I met this family called O'Donnell, and their father was from there. So, when I was 16 or 17, I met them just as friends, and that was Michael O'Donnell, very distinguished, wonderful, and his sisters, Trina and Myrid. And we used to sing at the lake there and sing Beatles songs and so on. And then when we went to college, almost immediately, me and Michael started getting little gigs in the folk clubs in Dublin. This is the 68, 69. And then we had this group Scarabray and on and on. So we could go on to the different people I met. Yep.
Wonderful. Well, I'm sure some of these wonderful people you've met and collaborated with are going to come up as we chat, and especially on this album, because this album that we're going to revisit is special because it features a lot of collaborations. This is Lost River Volume 1. I don't know if there's a Volume 2 yet, but I like the optimism that there will be more. Yeah. But what can you tell us about this album and why you picked it?
Well, I picked it when I thought of it. I just, at first when you invited me, and I was thinking, what can I do that would make sense or be coherent? And you see, most of in as much as I've had any success, it's been as an accompanist, of other people, a lot of the time. So, accompanying a lot of great Irish traditional musicians. And so this isn't quite the same thing. I've always been a singer. I love singing. But so around about 2010, 11, I got one of these wonderful Bush Fellowship grants, and I'd heard about it from Laura MacKenzie and Dick Hensel. So the same year I got one, Laura got one too. And so there's this, one of the things I thought of was I'll do a solo album. And I'd already made one solo album a few years before. And so the main thing on it was me singing traditional songs. But then I thought, well, this would be lovely. I'm going to be in command. And I'm very happy not being. I'm not an alpha person at all. I'm quite happy to support other people. But I thought, well, hang on, now I can do whatever I want. So I thought I would choose the songs and then ask different people to accompany. And some of them were here, and some of them were around the country, and some of them were in Ireland. And that I really got satisfaction out of that. And I did it with John Wright. John Wright's studio, and I was very, I felt very comfortable with John. I'd done projects with Laura and John, and so I just then focused on, trying to sing presentably, hopefully, and then I got a great pleasure out of the mix. You could say it's very, very simple, the mix, but I wanted people to hear what my accompanists were doing. Not be hidden away somewhere. I was just thinking about this, when I thought of using this album. I thought, well, if somebody's playing, it's not going to be a wee thing up in the background. If somebody's playing violin or guitar, you're going to hear it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So it was fun.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, let's dig in and take a listen, because I need some music. This first track that you picked to feature is the Unquiet Grave. And as with all these songs, again, special guests and some good friends of ours, Tom Schaefer and the late, great Peter Ostroushko. Is there anything you want to say about this before we dig in, or you want to chat about it after?
Yeah, we could just listen to it first and see what it's like.
Sounds good. All right, we're kicking off our hour here with the Unquiet Grave from Dáithí Sproule here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Cold blows the wind to my true love, and gently drops the rain. I never had but one true love, and in the green fields he was slain. In the green fields he was slain. I'd do as much for my true love as any young maid may. I'd lie and weep all on his grave for a 12-month and a day, for a 12-month and a day. When the 12-month and one day was past, this young man did rise and speak. Who is it there lies on my grave, and will not let me sleep, and will not let me sleep? 'Tis I, your own true love, that lies upon your grave. One kiss from your cold lips, one kiss is all I crave. One kiss is all I crave. My lips, they are as cold as clay. My breath smells earthly strong. And if you kiss my cold clay lips, your days, they won't be long. Your days, they won't be long. Down in yonder grove, true love, where you and I did walk, the prettiest flower that ever grew is withered to the stalk. It's withered to the stalk. It's withered to the stalk, true love, and the flower will never return. And since I've lost my own true love, what can I do but mourn? What can I do but mourn?
All right. Dáithí Sproule with special guests Tom Schaefer and Peter Ostroushko on the tune The Unquiet Grave. That's from Dáithí's 2011 release, Lost River Volume 1, which we are revisiting today with Dáithí joining us live from West St. Paul. But as he mentioned, originally from Ireland, and but collaborating with some of our finest Minnesota players on that track.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say about either of them or why you chose the two of them for this particular track?
Well, the song, it's a great traditional ballad. And I, funnily enough, I saw it. I have one or two little connections from my distant past with Burl Ives. So one of them is there was a Burl Ives ballad book around our house just after I started playing the guitar. And I saw this lyric, so I made up my own melody. I mean, it's a very simple melody, but it's with chords. It sounds very nice. And of course, the lyrics are fantastic. You know, even it sounds silly, but even sitting, and I, by the way, I don't listen to my own recordings. So this is, you've made me do something that I never do. But I couldn't help getting caught up in the emotion of those lovely words, as if it was somebody else, you know. I was listening to somebody else, which is an interesting experience. But anyhow, so Tom, Tom has been a local guy. He left us for a few years there and came back. But a wonderful musician and such a nice guy. And, everybody wants to play with him. And a lot of
That's true.
Playing in so many different bands, and he can do everything. He can play Irish, traditional, just brilliantly, and jazz and bluegrass, everything. So that was, and so it's a very American kind of song, I felt deliberately. And then Peter, I was so, again, such a great blessing to get involved with Peter. When I came here first in 78, 79, and he was already a local legend, Yeah. I mean, and he was around with his bluegrass band, and they would be at parties, and he played some Irish tunes. He obviously loved Irish tunes. And so in the early 80s, so I saw him a bit. I didn't have a special connection with him, but I knew he was very interested in Irish music. But anyhow, at some point there in the early 80s, he had been the musical director on the Garrison Keillor show. And so he decided to build a solo career for himself then, a very deliberate plan. And he asked me to accompany him. Now, I didn't quite realize the full significance of that, until later, in fact, when he was ill and he was talking about it, and I realized, how lucky I was and what an honor it was that I did that. And he was very open to, so he had this background in, traditional in every music actually, but anyhow, jazz and old time and everything. And so he liked this tuning. I didn't even talk about this DADGAD tuning, which I use a lot of. And he liked the sound. So he could be doing a Ukrainian tune or whatever, and I would be accompanying it in DADGAD. And he was the first person I had a real tour with that was properly organized. But he did everything. It was like a holiday. He drove, he picked up the car, he booked the hotel, he paid for the dinner, and everything. And so and another wonderful thing is that, he with such a high standard, in all his playing, he never said anything critical to me, or, you know what I mean? No suddenly turning. And that can happen. Even a nice person can do that to another musician, But being a delicate little flower myself, I like playing with people who aren't going to do that to me. So really, it's fabulous. I played with them for a few years. So and listening to what they're doing here now, as we listen, it's so easy to take it for granted at the time, but listening to the way they're playing together, that's fabulous.
Oh,
I mean, they're both. The playing is fabulous. Yeah,
it sure is. We're looking at a photo now from the concert that kind of kicked off the CD. Is that right? This is the big project. We're going to probably hear a little bit more about this concert, but just for those of you who are listening to the audio version of the podcast, we are looking at Dáithí surrounded by Tom Schaefer and Peter Ostroushko, perhaps playing this very song.
Yeah.
Yes, almost certainly. And this was I had a launch event at the Celtic Junction and was lucky enough to coordinate lots of people to come. And I just kind of sat on stage all night, and I had a rota of all these people coming on and off stage, and it was just fantastic. Yeah.
And for those of you who are just listening, Tom Schaefer is the one on the fiddle and Peter Ostroushko on the mandolin with that signature sound. But of course, Peter also a great fiddler as well. So surrounded by big talents there.
Yes, yeah. That's my trick.
Well, it was a joy to listen to their kind of musical conversation that was happening behind you as you were singing and playing. I don't know if everybody who was listening was able to catch that, especially if you're wearing headphones, here in the stereo field here. But we had Tom and Peter having this beautiful conversation that just propped up the story and helped tell it in such a beautiful way.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And also, we don't want this to be escaped, especially because Ryan commented on it too in the chat, is DADGAD. For people who aren't guitar people, maybe you could, I don't know if there's a layman's way of just describing, what DADGAD is and how it's different from other tunings or standard tuning.
Well, in the late 60s, or even the mid to late 60s, it was this amazing period, of course, in music, all fields. So from a point of view of singing, either accompanying jigs and reels or singing songs, traditional songs, which had always been unaccompanied. Irish music had, there's exceptions. You hear some records and stuff, but music as played by the people, there was no accompaniment. There were no chords. There was no harmony. There was nothing. So we were in if you were a guitarist and you approached this material, it was totally different from if you suddenly took up old time or any form of popular music or folk music, in that you will have, this is the way you do it, Well, there was no, this is the way you do it for us. So the foundation that I had when I started trying to arrange these traditional songs was from my friend Healy, what he did in standard tuning. And it was very complex, intricate, and very colorful. It wasn't just D, G, so that created my idea of what should happen. There should be variety, variation, and color, and so on. But anyhow, so then around about 67, 68, and there was talk, there was just a vague mention of tunings, but basically, unless you were we knew one great acoustic blues guitarist, Johnny Norris, who would have used tunings, but, but then what happened was this band Pentangle emerged, and my friend Jim McCluskey, that I learnt my first chords from, he was always in advance of me, drawing me on in my taste. And so he had he played a Pentangle record to me, and I knew this was fantastic, but I had no idea what was going on. I couldn't make head or tail of it. And then by this time we were in college, so we went to a live gig, and I still didn't understand what they were doing, but I was entranced. The two guitarists, you guys would know, and not many of your listeners, the two guitarists were incredibly inventive acoustic guitarists. And they had amazing background in lute music and blues and everything. And so they used tuning. So we began to get their solo records as well, Bert Jansch and John Renburn. And on the albums, they would note the tunings, that they were using. So one day, basically it must have been about 69 or so, I tuned my guitar to DADGAD, and I just started messing around in it. And that was what started me off, And I was playing at that time in Skara with Michael O'Donnell, and he was playing in standard tuning. Naturally, we were both playing in standard tune. So we thought, well, there's no point in the two guitarists playing the same thing. So on a lot of the stuff, I would play DADGAD and he would play standard tuning, and it complemented. Even on the album we did, it was, there was a retrospective celebration of it a few years ago. It was out 50 years. And I listened back to that one. I forced myself to listen back. And I realized that almost every track I was playing DADGAD and Michael was playing standard tuning. But anyhow, the second step was that it turned out to really suit the dance music. If I tried to accompany jigs and reels, it wasn't my thing at first. But by the time I was 23, 24, I was hanging out with fiddlers and so on. And I just happened to have my guitar tuned in DADGAD one day, and somebody said, "Oh, accompany us." And I started playing, and it just worked. It worked like the first minute. Boom. DADGAD worked for accompanying the jigs and reels.
And now your name is oftentimes just associated with this tuning. Like if you were to Google Dáithí's name, it's going to come up, which is a testament to, what an influence you've had now using that tuning. While we're on this topic, though, I have to ask, because I've always wondered when I hear accompaniment in that tuning, how much of that is kind of improvised each time you play the same tune, and how much of that is kind of locked in to something that you do. Is that something that you've worked out?
It's a good question, and I hate when people say that's a good question, but that was a good question.
I've been dying to know this for a long time.
Anyhow, no, I am improvising all the time. That's what I like. I like improvising, and to me, I think of it as color. I'm sort of playing the tune along with the person playing the tune, but I'm not playing the tune. I'm playing the tune in terms of phrasing and following it and harmonizing with it. And it's not, so in a sense, I was playing it for many long decades before I started doing more, trying to do workshops and things. And I realized, I'm not really doing chords at all, I'm harmonizing. And so that's what I like about it. And I think that the traditional players that I first played with, some of whom didn't hated guitar, because all they'd experienced was dreadful guitarists who didn't know the music. Now, I actually didn't know the music either, but DADGAD worked for that. It worked with my frame of mind, yeah. And I think they liked it, and they would say, yeah, it's an open sounding, whereas a full chord in DADGAD was kind of trapping the tune, and it's kind of droney. I eventually realized that, in fact, it was Sean Gavin, the great flute player and piper, who pointed out to me, it's obvious, like the Ellen pipes, the Irish pipes, have 3D drones, 2 or 3 D drones. So the music was created for these elements that have D drones. What is DADGAD? It's 3D drones,
It's
interesting. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Hey there, would you like to be part of the live show? Well, become a member of the Back Catalog Listening Party Patreon, and you'll get a backstage pass to weekly online tapings where you can ask the artist questions and participate in the live chat with a fun community of like-minded music nerds. You'll also get a first look at upcoming guests and receive invitations to special live streams and private after parties. So join the party today at patreon.com/Back Catalog Listening Party.
This is so great, and I'm dying to hear more music because time's going fast. So we want to hear more of these cool collaborations and hear that DADGAD guitar playing in action. So the next track that you picked to feature from Lost River is the Maid of Ballydoo.
Very good.
And is there anything you want to say about this or the guests?
Well, I'll say something very quickly then. This is not in DADGAD, it's in G major tuning. And so, in fact, I used quite a lot of G major on that album, and I still love DADGAD too. But anyhow, coincidentally, it's actually G major. And so I've several different groups that I ended up being involved with. They're just, fantastic. Scarborough, this with Liz Carroll and Billy McComiskey, we have this trio, Trian, which I just love, and we made 2 albums. So anyhow, so this is Billy and Liz, and they dubbed in separately. That was another fun thing. Send it off to Billy in Baltimore and he does something, and send it off to Chicago to Liz. And then Daniel Enblom is a great fiddler and also a great dancer. And so we got the idea that she would do percussion. And then the song I learned from a great Derry traditional singer called Kevin Mitchell, who I didn't know well. I only met him a couple of times, but he influenced me a lot. So it's a little jolly little traditional song.
All right, let's give it a spin. This is Dáithí Sproule, the Maid of Ballydoo, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
It was on a summer's morning, all in the month of May, down by yon shady arbour I carelessly did stray. It was there I spied this charming maid, most pleasing to my view, and the title that she gave herself was the Maid of Ballydoo. I boldly stepped up to her, and unto her did say, are you Aurora, or Flo, the Queen of May, or is it the fair Helen that appears all in my view? And the title that she gave herself was the Maid of Ballydoo. I took her by the lily white hand and by the waist so small, and I showed her my father's garden down by the river pan, where the sheep and lambs do sport and play, and the trout and salmon too. And says I, sweet maid, don't be afraid to leave old Ballydoo. It was with great persuasion that I got her to consent, and arm in arm together 'twas Helltown down we went, where we there got liquor of the best, some of the morning dew, and she soon forgot the vow she made when leaving Ballydoo. It was on a summer's evening, all in the month of June. I was sitting silently condoling at my loom. My scissors they cut sweetly, and my shuttle nimbly flew, when I first composed these verses on the Maid of Ballydoo.
All right. Dáithí Sproule with the Maid of Ballydoo, with special guest Billy McComiskey on accordion, Liz Carroll on fiddle, and Daniel Enblom on feet. And Alinda commented, makes me want to dance. And, it's interesting because a ballad like that, you wouldn't necessarily think, it's not like a dance tune. But having the feet on there really adds like a nice percussive element.
Yeah, I think it was a nice idea, and I had forgotten the arrangement too. The bits that how we separated the fiddle and the accordion were doing, all that stuff. So it's fun to hear it. Yep.
Yeah, and how did this recording take place? You mentioned somebody was, sending their tracks in and things like that. Was there a core group of you, like in a studio, kind of doing it at the same time as well?
Well, I recorded all the songs here. So sometimes I think I did. People always dubbed in, which was unusual because I love live. I love playing live. I in a way, studios I think we've had enough of studios in a sense, and yet this made it possible to do what we did, and that was lovely. It was actually really fun to send a thing to Ireland, and like say with there was a track here with Seamus Maguire. I don't know whether we have time to get to it. Who's a master? Talk about a master fiddler, unbelievable, impeccable style, great classical player, all this stuff. So I just sent it off to him. I loved his playing, and I recorded an album with him and his brother years ago. So then he texted back and said, "Well, what do you want me to play?" And my usual thing with people who play with me, if I'm say in charge of what's going on, if it's a song, I just want people to do whatever they want. I'm not. I think that's great. But he wanted guidance, so I actually made up the line and sent it to him, and it was so sort of fun to do that, to give a line to this fantastic musician, and then hear him playing it. It was fun. So yeah, I don't think we did I think we probably did the Unquiet Grave. We would have done that together, yes, in the studio.
Wow,
yes, so we did a few things together, and then a few things not. There's something to be said for both ways,
Yeah, well, you've sure captured a live vibe, even if it wasn't recorded together.
Yeah, and again, it sounds so great. There's just a warmth to it that your guitar sounds so good. I mean, John Wright, of course, a great musician, and he knows how to capture those acoustic instruments. Where did you record? Just at his studio, or did you use another studio space in town?
No, it was his studio. In fact, he played bass on a song that isn't, any song on my album I'd have loved to talk about, so I had to pick out a few.
Yeah.
So he did one, The Dreary Parting, which I love singing, and he did an electric bass on it, and it was so beautiful. Yeah, lovely.
Well, it sounds great. Unfortunately, this album is out of print. You can't, if you can find a CD copy, buy it, because it sounds so good.
I found one on, in order to get this cover art, actually, I found one on, it was Amazon in Canada or something like that. And I think it was going for about $60 some. So go ahead, gang. You can fight over that copy.
Yeah, go get it. And because it sounds really good. And this is a good opportunity to just talk about going to Dáithí Sproule's website. So you can also read a lot more about this album and about his music. And also, of course, most importantly, tour dates. And by the time this podcast airs, he'll be back from playing in Missouri, but he will be playing at the Twin Town Old Time Festival here in St. Paul at the Celtic Junction. April 17th through 18th is that festival. And as the name implies, it's a lot of old time music and traditional music. And I'm guessing, Dáithí, you'll bring some of the Irish to that festival as well.
Well, the Celtic Junction is our kind of the home of the Centre for Irish Music, where I teach. So I'll be just totally at home. It'll be great. It'll be fun. And I'm playing with Danny Diamond, and I've known Danny all his life, really. And his parents, I did an album with his parents, Jeremy and Tara. Jeremy's a great fiddler. Tara's a great flute player, and they have very special music, and I know them forever. And we eventually made an album at John Wright's too, awesome. Which was great. That's beautiful. That one might even be available somewhere. I don't know. But anyway, so it's great to play with Danny, and it's great to be part of the festival. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
And you just brought up something that I think is so important for folks who maybe don't live in the Twin Cities and aren't aware. The Twin Cities and St. Paul in particular has such a robust Irish community, which has been here for quite a while, but it means there's a lot of music and culture in the Celtic Junction, is a great hub for it these days, but it's been around for a long time. Is that what drew you to the Twin Cities originally when you moved here?
No, I came to do gigs with James Kelly and Paddy O'Brien. And we had met some local people in Ireland. Mary McEachran and Laura MacKenzie and Sam Dillon. They played in the Plough and the Stars Ceilidh Band with Martin McHugh, which became the Northern Star Ceilidh Band. And so my Patty Bronson, my first wife, was a flute player in that band. So I arrived, and the night I was thinking about it because Laura McKenzie's on one of these tracks, and I was thinking I met Laura the first night I was in the Twin Cities.
Oh, wow.
At O'Gara's pub, and they had a great session there. And as soon as we arrived, as travelers, myself and James and Patty, we just were very impressed by how the traditional players here, and they were all young Americans who just had somehow got the style, and were as good as anybody in Ireland, really. And so there's always been great Irish traditional music here. And almost always it wasn't Irish people, it was Americans, and who got to love the music. And now they're, who knows, there's 6 or 7 weekly sessions in different places. And it's just fantastic, and all range, for some fantastic players, all the different standards, all playing together, which is lovely. And of course, the school again, the Centre for Irish Music, is such an incredible success. That was started about 2005 by Kate Dowling, Kate and Jody, and her Kate was the main force, and I think be fair to say, and she had come from Chicago. And she was. There didn't seem to be anybody developing a tradition, a new generation of little ones, who would then grow up into the music like she had done. So she started the school, and it has proved, to speak totally selfishly, it has just proved to be an amazing blessing for me, in these late years of my life, to go in and share what I love and meet all these different people. And it's just been fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an amazing resource here in the Twin Cities. If you're anywhere in the region, it's worth stopping by, checking it out. We'll make sure to put a link in our show notes at backcataloglisteningparty.com. They have a wonderful library, and they have and
we do Zoom classes as well. I teach people all over the world. Yeah.
So if you want to learn some DADGAD guitar and some Irish tunes, definitely check that out. You can go to daithysproule.com for more information about him. And again, we'll have the links to Celtic Junction and Center for Irish Music and all that good stuff. And some lovely comments coming in. Thanks for your devotion to the craft. Cool dude. Vaughn says, beautiful music, and Dáithí is understated as always. He's a gem. And I agree.
Well, Vaughn is a gem too.
Yes, she's an incredible bass player in town. Yeah. And speaking of our local music community, and Laura MacKenzie, who you mentioned, who you met on the first night, very fortuitously when you were in the Twin Cities, one of the great players in town, and she's been a past guest on the Back Catalog Listening Party. She joins you on this next tune you picked to feature, which is Bold Doherty.
Yeah, so that I played with Laura on and off since then, in many different formats and so on. She's a great friend, wonderful musician, and just a force, an unstoppable force in the music, all the different projects she's had. So this is just, again, another, it's a kind of quirky song, Bold Doherty, with slightly mysterious what's going on in it. And she does, she's incredibly versatile. She plays many different types of pipes from different countries, and whistles and flutes and everything. So she's playing the B-flat whistle on this here, I'm pretty sure, and harmonizing with herself and so on. And it's a really fun, kind of tricky song to perform live. And it's also a good demonstration of DADGAD. It's in D for guitarists with no capo on, and it's pretty. It's like a journey up and down the fretboard in a nice kind of way.
Excellent. All right, we're gonna give it a spin. Dáithí Sproule with Bold Doherty here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
My name is clasp old Doherty from the north country, where there's a still upon every stream. And lady, be quicker and bring us more liquor, and fill us a pitcher that's stronger than cream. If I had you, Molly, so pleasant and jolly, although it's a folly to ask you at all, but if I had a glass and a mile to the bottom, I'd drink to you, Molly, beside Donegal. With me fall-da-dal-la, fall-da-dal-la-dee, fall-da-dal-la-dee, fall-da-dal-dee. I'd a new pair of clogs I brought home from the market. I wanted an excuse to get into the town, so I told me old mother the seams they were ripped, and I wanted some nails to rivet them round. She clothed me hand with a bright purse of shilling, and says the remainder it will be your own. When you go to town you may take a full naggin, but be sure to bring none of your fancifuls home. With me fall-da-dal-la, fall-da-dal-la-dee, fall-da-dal-la-dee, fall-da-dal-dee. Crossing the hills of me brave and Skillen, I went into an alehouse for to take a dram, where I spied two tinkers dividing a saucepan, although they were arguing about a tin can. One up and then made a blow with the other, and says, you old villain, I will take your life. Your saucepans are leaking and won't hold the water, since ever bold Doherty spoke to your wife. With me fall-da-dal-la, fall-da-dal-la-dee, fall-da-dal-la-dee, fall-da-dal-dee. When I got home the door it was bolted, I wrapped up me mother for to let me in. Oh, begone of this place was the words that she mentioned, for inside this door, oh, you'll not enter in. You may go away to wherever you came from, to keep you out now I'm sure it's no sin. Says I, my gay woman, you may keep your temper, for I can get lodgings with no remoglin. With me fall-da-dal-la, fall-da-dal-la-dee, fall-da-dal-la-dee, fall-da-dal-dee.
Oh yeah, there was a lot happening in there.
There's a lot happening, and it's not a B flat whistle. No, Laura will be writing a letter of protest. I don't know what the tin whistles are in all these different keys, but it's definitely not a B flat whistle. It might be a C. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
sounds great.
Sounds great, and I could see what you were talking. I'm glad you mentioned about the journey up and down the fretboard, because I could hear there's just so much happening, especially at the end there, and then Laura's busy doing her thing. I'm guessing, was that one recorded live in the studio?
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she has that part. It's so intricate, and that would be the opposite of what I was saying about improvising. That's very worked out and it's very fixed, and it's kind of you can do opposite things happily, like it's nice to work out something that just is really pinned down and nailed down and reflects all the details of the tune as well as you can. That's fun too.
Yeah. And I think do we have a photo from that of Laura?
Yeah, that's us. Yeah, that's her.
another photo from this album release concert, which you can check out. If you can check out all these photos, if you go to the back catalog listeningparty.com. And we can't tell what kind of flute or whistle she's playing in that particular shot, but
yeah, it could be a C. I'm not sure. Yeah.
In any event, if you go to backcataloglisteningparty.com, if you're maybe just listening to the podcast and you want to check out these photos and all the cool links to these guests and different people involved in this really cool collaborative project that Dáithí Sproule recorded, which we are revisiting today, Lost River, you can go to backcataloglisteningparty.com, go to this episode with Dáithí Sproule, and you'll find it all there. The Back Catalog Listening Party is brought to you by EFS Publicity. Founded by veteran publicist, promoter, DJ, and musician Ellen Stanley, EFS brings an artist's perspective to the table, working to help clients get to the next level in their career. Services include national and international media campaigns, radio promotions, tour press, crowdfunding, grant writing, and more. Get a quote or set up a consultation today at efspublicity.com. Well, we're going to get to one more song before we go. But before we do, we want to thank all the folks that have made this show possible. We're getting close to our 6-year anniversary.
Yeah.
It started in March of 2020. And the reason why this party keeps happening every week is because of these Patreon supporters.
Yeah, who show up even on an afternoon in midweek.
On a Tuesday afternoon, they're hanging out with us, wanting to hear music, wanting to ask about DADGAD, the whole thing. I want to thank Penny, Ann, Alinda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Alan, Chris, Becky, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, John, Tim, Sarah, David, Jocelyn, Matt, Steve, Mark, Severin, Lynn, Mary, Nikki, Joni, David, CJ, Christy, Diane, Hetty, Sandy, Neighbor Ann, BZ, Paul, Cynthia, Ross, Mike, Eric, Stephanie, Phil, Ryan, and maybe you. And if you would like to join our mighty crew of music nerds, go to patreon.com/backcataloglisteningparty. And you'll get invited to all the live tapings, because if you're new to the podcast, we do this every week. We do tapings just about every week, and we drop new episodes every week. And you get first look at all the guests and get to participate in the live Q&A.
Yeah, it's very special, and it's made so by all of you. So thank you.
Yes. And Dáithí, this has been such a treat to have you share an hour of your time with us. And
thanks for having me.
These songs. Oh, so good. And we can't wait for Lost River Volume 2. So when that happens, we'll definitely have you back on the show. And we have plenty of other projects we can revisit as well. So, but we're going to get to this last tune. Is there anything you want to say about this one? I'll let you pronounce it too.
Oh, Lynchehaun. And it's a ballad about a guy who really existed in the 1800s. And he was working as a steward for a rich lady in County Mayo, and he got into trouble. And what happened, I mean, I don't know exactly what happened, but he got into a row with her, and he was accused of biting her nose and burning down her house.
Good Lord.
And he was arrested, and he escaped, and he was chased around by the army and the police in Ireland. And because of this, in Ireland, if you were chased around by the army and the police, you must be a good person, you know. So he became a sort of a hero. And I got there's too much that I could tell you about this specific song, but it was given to me by an old Irish professor in the Institute for Advanced Studies, who was writing a book about the circumstances, this thing. And anyway, so he gave me the words, and I made up the melody. And this recording, I think it's from a live gig of Altan's, not from our launcher, not from the record. And I played with Altan for who knows when it started, 35 to 40 years. And it started off with a friendship with Frankie Kennedy and Mairead Newini, who were the founders of the group, and wonderful, wonderful, charismatic, brilliant people. And I toured with Altan for all that time. I threw in the towel the year before last. I said, all right, I'll draw the line while I can do it with honor, and not because I'm losing it. But anyhow, wonderful people. So that was great. I think we were playing at the Irish Fair here, the band, and that was part of the timing. We did the launch on the Monday, and they were there, and they played it, and they enjoyed they enjoyed playing. And in the photos and on the recording at that time, the lineup included Kieran Turish on fiddle and Dermot Byrne on accordion. Wonderful. That's Dermot there now on the accordion, and Kieran Turish, on the fiddle. So that was lovely to have it. They always got a kick out of the song. I had, I suppose I'll tell you an incredibly quick story about it. It's very, very brief. We were playing in Germany, in East Germany, and this was just after the wall came down, and the audience was very warm and lovely, but I didn't know any German. They didn't understand what I was saying. And for some reason, I made up this story that what this ballad was going to be about was this man, Lynchehaun, who escaped to America, and he worked in high buildings, on skyscrapers, and, repairing and all this stuff. So one day he fell off the skyscraper, and as he was descending towards the ground, he was, he was muttering words, and he hit the ground. Of course, he was killed, and the people came out and down from the offices, and one of them said, it was really weird. As he passed my window, he was reciting lines like of a poem or something. And I heard them too. And they realized that he'd been making up the ballad of his life while he was falling towards the ground. And this was the ballad of Lynchehaun. So there you go.
Wow.
And the audience in East Germany looked very blank. But I told that story for years. Yeah.
And that will be forever the story with this song now. Thanks for sharing that, Dáithí. This is Dáithí Sproule alongside Altan here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Ago down in Mayo we had a great outrage. A lady's place in Mackle was almost set ablaze, and the lady too was cruelly used, and taken was the man. To Castlebar jail we did repair, and bring brave Lynchehaun. I'm Lynchehaun, I'm Lynchehaun, I am that very man. I'm Lynchehaun, I'm Lynchehaun, let them catch me if they can. Well, if you had heard the murmuring from every barracks wall, and surely we will chain him down for fear he'd climb the wall. And even then we'll have him still by extradition law. And surely we will chain him down for fear he'd climb the wall. I am Lynchehaun, I'm Lynchehaun, I am that very man. I'm Lynchehaun, I'm Lynchehaun, let them catch me if they can. Forces can't do that now since the chase began. For the people know where'er I go that I am Lynchehaun. A cattle drover from Mayo was taken for me twice, while I was looking upon the foe. Well, that was very nice. I'm Lynchehaun, I am that very man. I'm Lynchehaun, let them catch me if they can. And then as well down near Clonmel they took an engine man. They stopped the train but was all in vain, for here was Lynchehaun. Some years ago down in Mayo we had a hunt before. After miles of chase they captured me on Ackle's rugged shore. I'm Lynchehaun, I am that very man. I'm Lynchehaun, let them catch me if they can.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Dáithí Sproule.
As you can tell, recorded live. Yeah. And everyone here at the back catalog joining in their applause as well.
Yeah, people were absolutely
Love it.
loving
The comments
both that
lighting up.
song and this whole hour. Dáithí, thank you so much for being here.
So
Well,
special.
thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And we could listen to more stories and more music all day. So we'll definitely have you back. But in the meanwhile, if you want to learn more about Dáithí's music, go to daithysproule.com. And Twin Cities folks can check him out at the Twin Town Old Time Music Festival, April 17th through 18th. And the rest of you, thank you so much for joining us for this special hour. Whether you've tuned in on your favorite podcast platform or join us for the live taping, no matter how you've joined us, if you liked it, give it the thumbs up, review it, share it with friends, and most importantly, subscribe, because we drop new episodes every Friday with our favorite artists revisiting old records. Sadly, not always Dáithí, but other great artists and other great stories. So thank you all. And also, have a wonderful St. Patrick's Day and get out there and enjoy some live music and support some of the great Irish music being made here and all around the world. So
yeah, cheers to that.
Sláinte.
All right. We'll see you all next week here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. Thanks for joining us on the Back Catalog Listening Party. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to the podcast and leave a review, which helps more people discover our show and our guests.
And do you want to be a part of the live show, get a first look at upcoming guests, and receive invites to private online parties and live streams? Then join our Patreon community at backcataloglisteningparty.com.
Have a great week. We'll see you back here next Friday for another edition of the Back Catalog Listening Party.